Okay, welcome back to another new video. So in today's video, I want to talk to you about the new mariko switches, or I guess they could be called the switch lights, and what the future for jailbreaking or hacking these switches looks like. Now, I have actually been receiving quite a few questions from a few people in the in my comments on my YouTube videos, so I thought I would just make a video to address this and pretty much anyone else who has the question online. So here we go. I thought it would be great since Wololo has actually released this right up today, actually, or maybe it was yesterday, with this detail as well. So maybe we can integrate it and you guys can read a little bit further. But essentially, I'll summarize most of it for you. So the history of hacking the Switch started off quite a long time ago, actually, where it was just a sort of exploit that was done through software. You had to have Pokken Tournament to get onto a certain firmware, and then you could trigger the exploit. Now, by memory, I can't remember how you had to trigger the exploit. I think it was through the hidden web browser on the Switch, and I actually have a video showing you how to do this. I think it was you had to set the DNS, and then you trigger the exploit through the web browser. So that's how you would go ahead and actually get into the homebrew menu. But back then, it was a lot harder to actually do anything with this because yes, you could get a homebrew menu, but how would you get the homebrew onto the Switch? And there wasn't many homebrews made at the time for the Switch, so for that reason, it was a little bit slow back then. But after a while, Kate Temkin released what was called the Fuse Delete exploit, which is what's documented here. Now, this exploit here, she worked along with a lot of people to release, and this is how we today are pretty much jailbreaking all of the older switches prior to the Mariko switches. Now, if you guys didn't know, this is just an exploit that's built into the hardware. So all of those switches are exploitable regardless of what firmware they are on, because it's just a bug that's in the hardware that cannot be patched, not by software at least, until Nintendo makes a hardware patch, which is the Mariko switches or the Switch lights. So that's how you can hack all of the older switches through Fuse.ly. So you can install your CFW. So if you have an old switch and you want to know if you can install custom firmware, just try and launch the Fuse.ly hack or the proof of concept. If you can do that on your Switch, then that means that you can jailbreak and install any CFW on it that you want to. At the moment, I think the main ones are Atmosphere and Ray NX. They are the two current ones that most people will be using, and they're probably the ones that are most frequently updated. I would say Atmosphere is more frequently updated than Ray NX. So personally, that's the one that I'm using at the moment. Since Cosmos is no more, that was my favorite. But long story short, they're no more around. So, anyways, moving on. It seems that there's many ways that you can go about hacking it. You can get one of these things. People use paper clips. You should look into it if you want to trailbreak or install CFW on your old Switch. Now, for those people that are here watching the video for the reason that they have a new Switch and you want to know what the go is, why you can't hack it, why you can hack it, well, here is pretty much the whole story behind it. So, long story short, yes, they can be hacked, but the answer is it's very hard to do this because they actually require physical hardware modification in order to hack them, and this is called it was the SX chip. Let's have a look. So this came from the group called Team Executor, and they made the SXOS, which obviously you can use on the older switches, but the mod chips were nicknamed SX Core. That's what they were called. So this particular chip, look, it does exist and it is out on the market, but what's happened is Nintendo actually caught wind of this sort of chip that was being released, and a way to counteract it so that Team Executor didn't make money, and of course to stop other people from jailbreaking or installing CFW on their switches, was to actually instigate lawsuits and DMCA shutdowns and stuff like that to force Team Executor to pretty much stop production, and it's pretty much crippled Team Executor, so they can no longer produce the chips. And for that reason, there was only a very small portion of them that were released to the public. So with that small portion, it was already very hard to find them, and there may still be some places around the world that may have stock, but again, it'll be very hard to find these places because, as stated here, if they do come up with stock, they will most likely sell out very quickly or be shut down. So if it is something that you're interested in and you do have a new Switch, do look for it, but be prepared. You may need to pay a premium for these chips because they are being sold for a very high price since they're so hard to obtain. Now, if you ask me personally, I would say when it gets to this point, just go and buy yourself an older Switch. For the price that you're going to spend on an older Switch, like a pre-owned one, it'll probably be close to the price that this chip is going to cost you to purchase, ship, and then pay someone to install. So I recommend you just buy an old Switch and you've got it all ready to go. You know, it's exploitable, and that's probably the best way to go about it. I'm sorry to say, but at this point in time, unless you have your hands on one of those special chips, you cannot actually hack the Switch Lite or the Mariko switches for that reason. So technically, yes, they are hackable. You can hack them, but unfortunately, without that chip, you just can't do it. Now, a lot of people are expecting clones to come out of these chips so that you can do it. Now, the story is that they've actually reversed the firmware that's on the chip. So SXOS has been reversed. But the problem is that they have been unsuccessful in reproducing these chips as clones because of some of the protections and other things that they built into these chips. So it is possible that in the future that they may release a clones to these, or perhaps Team Executor will come back and release chips again once they've sorted out their affairs some way or shape or form. But for this point in time, personally, I recommend that you guys go ahead and purchase one of the older Switches because yes, they are a little bit more pricey, but you got to think of it like this. They have a lot more features. You can dock them. You can plug them into your screen. You also have the ability to install your custom firmware on these switches. And they're very resilient in that sense. So if I was you, I would go ahead and do that. That's what I'm recommending if you want to have a hack switch and you want to install custom firmware. Now, basically, that's pretty much it. I've summarized this whole article for you with all of the interesting information. There is a little bit more that you might want to read about. If you haven't already read it while I've been scrolling through it, I'll have a link in the description for the article so you can come and have a read. And if you have any questions, just feel free to drop me a comment down below. Otherwise, make sure you subscribe so that you're ready for the next video when there's an update, and I'll let you know straight away. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.